You go to the pharmacy, pick up a tiny plastic bottle holding a few grams of powder pressed into little discs, and the pharmacist tells you the bill is thousands of dollars for a single month's supply. It is easy to look at that transaction and feel like you are being arbitrarily price gouged for a mixture of basic, cheap chemicals. This chart shows how that price is actually distributed. The pennies at the bottom cover the physical chemicals and manufacturing, while the $1 to $4 billion block above them accounts for the research and development required to bring that specific compound to market. So what exactly generates a billion-dollar receipt for a single chemical compound? To understand why a brand new medicine cost a fortune and why its generic clone will eventually cost pennies, we have to audit that original receipt, line by line. The vast majority of that invisible research tax comes from running the clinical trial gauntlet required by the FDA. The process starts with Phase 1, known as first in human. Investigators give the experimental drug to a small group of 10 to 100 healthy volunteers. The sole purpose of this phase is to establish a safe dosage and prove the chemical won't immediately harm humans. That first step alone typically takes 1 to 2 years to complete and adds $10 to $15 million to the receipt. If the drug is deemed safe, it moves to Phase 2, or first in patient. The trial expands to anywhere from 50 to 500 people who actually have the disease the drug is meant to treat. Researchers are looking to see if the drug actually works and zeroing in on the correct dosage. This phase adds another $20 to $40 million to the total. But more importantly, the gauntlet starts to take communal toll. Phase 2 has only a 30% success rate. Surviving these early phases proves a molecule has some therapeutic effect and isn't immediately toxic. But testing it on a few hundred people does not prove it is safe for the general population. That requires Phase 3, the multi-site trial. The study massively expands to include hundreds or even thousands of patients across clinics and hospitals nationwide. This scale is a clinical necessity. If a severe side effect only occurs in 1 out of every 5,000 people, you will never detect it in a Phase 2 trial. You have to test a massive group to find those rare, potentially fatal reactions. Because of that scale, Phase 3 takes 3 to 5 years to complete and adds a staggering $50 to $150 million, often much more, to the final bill. Even if a drug clears Phase 3, those individual trial costs don't add up to $4 billion. The final price tag is heavily weighted by the attrition factor. For every one molecule that makes it to pharmacy shelves, thousands of other compounds failed along the way. To encourage companies to take on this massive financial risk, the government grants the originator of a new drug a patent. This provides a roughly 20-year monopoly, allowing them to set a premium price to recoup both their successful research and all their expensive failures. Once the drug is out in the wild, the company is still required to conduct Phase 4 post-marketing surveillance, tracking long-term data as the drug is used by millions of people. The price of a patented drug settles the bill for this high-stakes history. Every dose funds the decades of research and the thousands of failed attempts required to find the one molecule that worked. Eventually, that 20-year monopoly expires. The drug hits what the industry calls the patent cliff, and its chemical recipe enters the public domain. At this point, competitors can step in to manufacture the drug. For these generic companies, development takes only a couple of years, and costs plummet to between $1 and $2 million. The reason for this massive discount is simple. The law does not require generic manufacturers to repeat the Phase 1, Phase 2, or Phase 3 trials. This often raises a red flag for consumers. If the generic companies get to skip the safety and efficacy trials, how do we know their version works just as well as the brand name? This chart shows the answer. The FDA requires generic manufacturers to prove bioequivalence. They must demonstrate through blood testing that their generic pill delivers the identical active ingredient into the bloodstream at the identical rate and extent as the original. The generic might have a different shape, flavor, or use different inactive ingredients, but by law, its clinical effect will be exactly the same. This equivalence is transparently enforced right on the box. Every drug label clearly lists the marketed brand name alongside its exact generic chemical components, ensuring the active ingredients are universally identified no matter who manufactures it. A brand name price tag funds the billion-dollar history of discovery. A generic price tag covers the cost of production.